So you are responsible at this age and this grade. I shouldn't have to tell you step by step what you need to do to be successful, right? I'm going to give you enough tools. I'm going to give you enough resources, right? But you are kind of flying solo right now. And I always want to remind you of this. I'm not going to record that because my still there. So that's why make sure you stay on task. Before we jump into financing, I really want to just fill this in before we move on. So we've done buying brand new, we've done buying used car, and when it comes to used, it's either dealership or private. And so before we move on, we're going to list some advantages and disadvantages of buying new. I think, pay attention, okay? I think this part, I can just basically tell you, see page, and I'm just going to reference, we're on page 14, but we need to go back to where I gave you a whole bunch of pros and cons. Right there on page 3. So I'm going to tell you to write down, if you want to see advantages and disadvantages of buying brand new, see page 3. I want you to write down again if you don't have to. So bottom of it, page 3 is used. Okay. So advantages of buying a used, right? You have a lower depreciation cost, right? So your car loses its value a lot slower than buying brand new. There are it will cost you less to insure. Costs less to insure, and that should make sense because the value of the car isn't as high. Right? There are no registration fees. Like when you buy a brand new vehicle, there are often some registration fees that come with it that you need to pay. So that's that. This one is very, there's a big caveat to this one. You only pay PST, but what needs to follow that, comma, if it is a private sale. Okay, you need to say that, and I would only use that when you're comparing used dealer versus used private. Like if there's a question that kind of wants to say, why should Joe buy at a dealer versus private? And then this is a very good one to use. Disadvantages, hidden damages. Right? If you buy used, I mean, it could have been involved in an accident. And worse yet, a lot of people choose not to put the claim in. Not that it's a bad idea, but they just try to repair it themselves so that they don't have like a demerit, or that it won't affect their insurance, right? So there are hidden damages. It's not as safe, right? All right, this is versus a new one, because a newer vehicle is just going to have latest features, right? It's not as fuel efficient. And there's a potential for higher maintenance costs. Okay, there's a potential for higher maintenance costs. Not that it will be necessarily, but potentially you're looking at like bigger issues than just, you know, uh, a light not working or whatever. Okay. I told you this already, but we talked about operating costs, right? Make sure you do a regular oil change in your car. Okay, that's gonna actually extend the life of your vehicle quite a bit. Sure, you'll be able to drive without noticing anything at first, but in the long run, it pays off to get new oil there, especially in the extreme weather conditions we have. All right, so now I'm going to switch over to financing. So that's basically our topic. Many people cannot afford to buy a vehicle outright, so they borrow money from a lending institution, right? A financial institution, and pay it back over time. So there's always two things here. Principal, it's the money or amount um, owing, and that changes over time, right? As you pay off your loan, you owe less and less and less and less and less, right? Interest is what we call the cost of borrowing. Cost of borrowing or finance charge. Okay. And you should have seen some of this in grade 11. You should have calculated payments and so forth. Vehicle loans typically should be paid off in anywhere between 5 to 7 years. Um, most banks give you a 5 year loan on a used car. If it's brand new, then they'll go 7 to 8 years if it's brand new. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Interest rates are commonly in the range of, this is very, it depends on your credit score and whatnot, but 3 to 7% is what we're, um, if you buy brand new, right, sometimes it's 0%. I don't know if you've ever seen 0% financing. Have you seen that? Yeah, it's a brand new car. I can guarantee you that the interest is in the price of the car. They're just saying it's 0% financing because it sounds really good, right? And so just keep that in mind. I need you to understand that there are two principals and two interests. You're like, what? Two principals and two interests. And this is where I'm just going to, for now, to get you to understand that a little bit, is I'm going to grab a piece of paper here before we write down the bottom part. When you borrow money, you have this big initial, I'm gonna use a bar graph here. Let's say you borrow 10 grand, right? Uh, Over time, when time has gone by, this amount is gonna be down to zero, right? Hopefully. So every month, so as if this is time in months, right? And this is money, obviously, on the y-axis. Do you remember the graphing in grade 11, right? Money and time. Over time, this goes down, right? So we call the initial amount that you borrow, follow me, I think you can follow this, is the big principal, the big principal. And that goes down over time. At the exact same time, what does the bank charge you on top of the money you borrow? Are you going to pay back 10 grand when you're all done? You're always going to pay back more. So this is what really happens. This is really what happens. If they say we borrow you 10 grand, they will do the math. They have their calculators and they'll be like, oh, if you want it over 5 years, you actually will end up paying us another, let's say 2K $2,000 worth of interest over time. So how much are you really paying back at the end? You're paying back the 10 and the 2, so you're paying back $12,000. So this is capital P, capital I. Okay? Principal interest, what you borrowed, what they charge you. Got it? It's Friday. I know you're probably like, I just want to get out of here. Just follow this. If you can understand this, it can make your life easier. Every single month, guys, there's a payment. This is your payment. Let's say the payment for this loan is $800 a month. Every month you pay $800, $800, $800. Do you know what happens behind the curtain, so to speak? That every single payment is made up of lowercase p and lowercase I, and I'm simplifying this. What is lowercase p? It could be about, let's say, $600 a month, and the interest is $200 a month, let's say. So the bank cashes in on this, and the $600 go towards knocking off the 10 grand that you owe them. So every month, it's going to change. It's going to actually go up over time, but every month the bank takes some of it and brings your loan down. But every month they also take a little bit and they say thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much, right? They make profit. So the longer your loan, the more interest you're going to pay. Guaranteed. So if you take a 7-year loan, you're going to pay more interest. If you take a 6-year loan, a bit less, 5 less. So the quicker you are at paying a loan off, the less interest you're going to pay. Does that make sense? Right. Like, because what are they doing? A bank takes money from people that are saving money. They take your money. If you have money in your savings account, they take it and they give it to somebody else. They go buy a car. And then you pay me back, right? And I say I give some of that I just earned in interest, I give it to you for saving, and the rest is my profit. So a bank is really they're just taking money, giving it to somebody else, making some of that, giving you profit. Like they're just basically the middleman, right? And so that's how it works. Let's go back here. Understanding interest. The interest paid is essentially the penalty for paying a loan back over a longer period of time. Let's highlight that. Interest paid is essentially the penalty for paying a loan back over a longer period of time. It is also referred to as the finance charge. Again, a lot of people do not care or think about the interest paid as long as they can afford the payment. I think I'm guilty of that too. The goal of this course for you to be a smart consumer, understanding how interest works is essential. So let's assume we buy a car for 12 grand. So we're going to go ahead and buy it for 12 grand. We finance it over 12 months at 5%. This is where I'm going to tell you what you should use if ever you are calculating any kind of payment in real life. Okay, we're going to use a chart, but you open the browser, you go to you Google payment calculator. I will use a different one because this is for mortgages. It's slightly different, so I will just go loan payment right there. You pick the first one, okay? Loan payment calculator right there. We're gonna say this. The loan amount is 12,000. We're doing this over, did I say a year, right? 1 year. And the interest rate is 5%. Right? So you just enter that, you hit calculate, and notice what it tells you. I'm gonna zoom in. Why did it say $10,000? That can't be your monthly payment. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yikes. Anyways, this right here tells me my payment is that. Um, Total interest you'll be paying back is 327. So you will be paying back the 12 grand plus the 327, right? So it tells you right there 12,327, right? So what if we take longer to pay? What's going to happen to my payment? Let's see. Calculate. The payment almost went down to half. But how much my total interest? Doubled. Almost doubled. Right? So a lot of people's like, I don't care. I just want the lower payment. Bring it, right? I don't care how much interest. But really you're losing more money, right? You're giving more to the bank. They're really happy. It's like, hey, you want to go 5 years? Sure, I'll go 5 years. Because then I can afford another car, maybe, right? So your payment is 226 and your total interest now is 1,500 bucks. I don't know about you, but I can do a lot of things for 1,500 bucks, right? But you just gave that away, right? So that's something to remember. So I want to go back because I need you to write this down. This part you will write down. Okay. So let's go back to this. Our monthly payment is 1,027. Okay, 1,027 and 29. And just so you know, right, Google loan calculator. You are going to, but you know what? A lot of you will take a loan for stuff. It's almost guaranteed that you will take a loan for something because there are, right, certain things just cost too much to just pay cash, right? And here I'm debating whether or not I'm going to do this. I think I'm going to hold off on the rest. I was going to make you do a diagram here. I'm going to hold off a little bit. Let's do some math. Let's go to page 15. And there are some formulas in there that you need to include. And these need to be transferred to your study sheet. Okay? So the loan, guys, the loan is always purchase price minus down payment. And just remember, there will not always be a down payment. A lot of folks choose not to put any money down, so you're starting from scratch. Okay? Is it a good idea to make a down payment? You save money. It saves you interest. The quicker you put it down, the better. Can you go to the bank and say, my payment is $1,000 a month, but I can do another $100 every month? Can you start another payment plan and add the $100 every month? You can, if you want to. Okay, monthly payment. I just call this PMT. So I will basically say it's the purchase minus down. Watch carefully here. I'm going to use a red pen for the table rate up there. So this is table rate. Do you remember a table last year with a bunch of numbers in there? You would match the interest rate and the years. That's the same. Actually, it's the same one. No surprises there. And I'm going to ask you to put this, just add it. What's purchase minus down? I just told you that. That's the loan. So let's make sure we understand that this is the loan. Right? If you take the purchase price minus the down payment, that is what you're going to ask the bank to finance. Okay? If the question ever says total paid to the bank, and I call that total paid to the bank, all you do is you take your payment, you multiply that by 12 months, and then you multiply that by the number of years. And it's always months, that's why I just go ahead and plug in the 12 there. Total interest on the loan is TI. Payment times 12 times years minus the loan. And here's where I would like you to highlight. You ready for it? I'm going to highlight that this part right here is the same as this part. And that the loan, I want you to highlight the loan and the loan. That way you know where to get it from. Okay? The loan is up here and comes back here. So I'm basically saying if I figure out how much I paid the bank, I can't compete with your phones, guys. Right? Total paid to the bank minus the loan, right? This is what I paid the bank. I'm going to subtract what I borrowed in the first place. That is the total interest you paid over the entire loan, okay? Not to be confused with interest paid on the first month. Underline that. First month. That is what I call lowercase I. Lowercase I. And this is how you do that one. You take your loan, and this is going to be the tricky part right here. Interest rate divided by 100, guys. All of that divided by 12. Write it down, and then I will make sure you understand something here. You can if you use whatever color you use for loan, let's go ahead and do that here. This is what students mix up. They see table rate, interest rate. Oh, it's rate, so it's the same. No, it's not the same. This one comes from the table, which you will see on page 18. This is the actual interest rate. So interest rate is given as a percentage. Okay, very important. So the problem will give you the interest rate. Total paid for the car would be down plus total paid to the bank. So total paid for the car, you take your down payment. Total paid to the bank, you just go up here, this part. So I will actually put that down so you have it. The only time down payment shows up again, right, is here. So this is how much you would have paid for the car in total. And so I will say this, that a payment is always going to be equal to principal plus I. So if this is your payment, right, there's always, this is what I call lowercase p, and this is what I call lowercase I. This just goes towards loan, and this one goes to the bank as profit. And you're like, Mr. Dirksen, hold it, time out. I'm confused because you're telling me, sorry, I'm going to go way up there. There's a payment formula there, and you just gave me another one here, and that's confusing. So I will say this, I will put a little note here. Only used once payment and interest are known. I will say that. Are known. That's the only time you will use this formula. Only used once payment and interest are known. Okay. Before you fall asleep, right? I need to make sure you understand what's happening here. And that's where technology is way better than anything. Can I just ask you to look at this? And we are actually going to do this by hand. You may have done this already last year. Remember amortization tables? Once you get it, you get it, okay? Watch this. You start with 12 grand. How much interest do you pay the first month? And then, so it's going down over time. Why is that? Because every month you owe a little bit less, and then they recalculate the interest, you owe a little bit less. They recalculate it, you owe a little bit less, right? So it's almost like depreciation. Remember that? You lose value on the car, but you also lose less every year. So same thing with interest. So when I talk about, watch this carefully, if I talk about lowercase I, I'm talking about these numbers here. So the first month is never the same as the second, is never the same as the third. That's why the question is asking you how much interest will you pay on the first month. It's coming from this concept right here. Okay. All right, let's do some math here. Okay. I'll do one and then you'll do one. Isfeld, does that name rings a bell? Mr. Isfeld? I have a feeling that a lot of you went, okay. You need to borrow a total of $31,500 to buy a new car. That doesn't really matter here. For loans, focus on the amount that is being borrowed. Okay? The dealership offers you a 5-year loan at an interest rate of 3.5%. No down. There's no down payment here. So I'm going to make sure you know that this example is as simple as it comes. Calculate the monthly payment. So I'm going to find my payment. I'm going to follow the formula. You have it right next to you. I did that on purpose. It's on the same page. The purchase price. There's no down, right? So I'm going to go minus 0 times a table rate divided by 1,000. So the 1,000 is always going to be there. And I'll explain why that is. Go to page 18 to go look at that table. Don't just grab the number. I want to explain first. Term is in years. This one only goes up to 5 years. Interest rate is down the left. Okay. So the payment calculator, this is a monthly payment per, where is that? What is that word? Per $1,000. That's why we divide whatever number we get out of here, we divide it by 1,000, because these numbers are what you would be paying for every $1,000 of loan. Do you see how as the years go up, just check with the first row. What happens to the numbers as the years go up? It goes down. You're paying a little bit less per month because it takes you longer to pay it. All right? So it doesn't matter which interest rate you lock in at. As time goes up, you're going to pay less per month, but not overall. Okay? Less per month, but not overall. We discussed that just now. So let's match 5 years and 3.5%. So 3.5 on the left here, my finger, and 5 years. Slide over, match. 1819 is the one you can circle. Go ahead and circle it. 1819. So you write this down, 1819 right there per $1,000. So this is really 31,500. I always ask my students to do this here because very soon you're going to have a down payment. So just go through the motions for now. Grab your calculator. You're going to put equals on that other side. 31,500. I would do it this way every time. Times 18.19. I hit enter or equal, sorry, and then divide it by 1,000. And you should get 572.99. Right? Rounds to 9. And so this is per month. So you just figured out how much your monthly payment will be over 5 years. You get 2 marks for a question like this. You get 1 mark for having this number there and 1 mark for getting that rate. And obviously you would have to calculate it correctly to get the full 2 out of 2. Total amount paid back to the bank, right? Amount paid to the bank in 5 years. Which formula are you going to use? Total paid to the bank, right? TPB. So you take your payment. Look at the formula as you're copying, right? I'm looking at that one. Payment times 12 months times, how many years are we talking about in this example? 5, right? See, if you just follow along, you'd be surprised how well you will do in this course, right? Because I try to make it, it's not really a word, but followable, that you can follow, right? Making stuff up here. So that is how much the bank will have given. You're like, hold it, I borrowed 31,500. I paid back 34,000. Yep, right? It makes sense. It should be. The more money you borrow, the more the interest is going to be. Okay? Next, the total interest paid on the loan. Not just interest, total interest. So let's go and look up our formula. Which one would you use? TI, total interest. Sometimes I call this capital I, but TI is. So you take your payment, right? The formula calls for payment. And I have to multiply that by 12. And I have to multiply that by years. Mr. Dirksen, didn't I just do that part up here? If you notice that, that's great. Yes. Minus the formula for TI calls for you to subtract the loan. Where's my loan? Guys, if you go up, yes, and more specifically, it's whatever you get when you subtract the down payment. So I always put it down here, the loan. Okay, so in this case, it is 31,500. I will highlight those two because that's the one, for some reason, a lot of students get that one wrong. So I'm trying to get you to see where I'm getting my numbers from. So I will cheat a little bit. I know that this part here is 34,379.40. And I will just subtract the 31,500, and then we're going to answer next. I have this number. I subtract 31,500, and that is 2,879.40. I'm going to add something to this so that we see it right away. We're not going to wait till that shows up. I'm going to add a D here, if you don't mind me introducing that. I will just, somewhere where you have some blank space, okay? D, first month's interest, question mark. I'm going to just shorten that. So if it ever asks you how much interest did you pay on your first month's payment, we would have to do it the following way. You go lowercase I. As soon as you hear the words first month, you're like, oh, this is lowercase I. You know it's going to happen, right? And so what does lowercase I calls? It calls for the loan times interest rate over 100. So over 100, okay, not over 1,000, over 100. So what's my interest rate in this case? Interest rate. Interest rate is different than table rate. This is the interest rate I'm talking about. Got it? So it's always stated as a percentage. So that is the one that goes in here. And you know why I'm dividing it by 100, correct? Because you can't use percentages. You have to turn it into a decimal. That's why the 100 is there. And then you just divide that by 12. It's going to be a small number, guys. It's going to be smaller than your payment, in fact, right? So that's normal. So 31,500. How do I do this? I'm going to go times 3.5 equals divided by 100 equals, right, this times this divided by that, and then I'm telling you to divide that by 12 as well. So you get 91.88. Can you see that? I hope so. Can I actually, Anmol, I appreciate that you got it wrong, because that's going to make sure I remind you of this. I'm going to use my orange highlighter, and I'm going to go way up and just highlight that orange as well. I want you to see that, right? That's the interest rate, not the 18, because that's a very common, and it's not like you're not thinking. It's just like rate, right? You're looking at your formulas, plug in, go, right? If you plugged in 18.19, your number would not make sense. Like, you would get a really big number. This number can never be bigger than your payment, because what the bank does is the very first payment, It takes the 572 off of your checking account, and then this gets taken off of that for them as profit. The rest goes towards paying off your loan. Okay, so that's what's happening in the behind the scenes every month. You don't see it, but it's there. Okay. I want you to try example 2 here. I want you to try it, okay? Doesn't matter whether or not you're stuck. Use the car in example 1. If you decided to go with a 3-year loan, how would your monthly payment and interest change? So I want you to find the monthly payment for that new loan, all of these other things for the new loan, okay? And I'm going to add D to it. No, right? First month's interest. So what has changed? I'm going from a 5-year loan to a 3-year loan. So you have to redo everything, okay? So give that a try. You need that table on page 18. All right. So if you could just look up, I know a lot of you had checked, you were getting it. That's your payment, right? Total paid to the bank. Okay, we're good. Okay, pay attention now. Total interest paid to the bank. So you get 1726.20. Now, D is the same, right? D is still 91.88. Okay, I just want you to quickly look at what happened to the payment, to the monthly payment. The payment went up, right? But the total amount paid in interest, look at the interest amounts. Like if you look TI on both of them, you ended up paying less interest on the second one because you're paying it off faster. Okay, so I will add that at the bottom here. Paying a loan off faster increases the payment, right, comma, but reduces the total interest, okay? So if I ever ask you, what can so-and-so do to reduce the amount of interest paid? Say pay it off faster, right? Reduce the amount of time needed to pay off the loan, okay? What else do you think could help in reducing the total interest paid? A down payment, yeah. Additional payments, if it's your birthday, you get a bunch of money, instead of going and spending it, go to the bank, say, hey, $100 towards my loan, thank you very much, boom. Do you know the beauty of any extra that you put down? That all of it goes towards bringing it down, not just part of it, all of it. Because the interest they take from your payment, anything above that is completely, fully going towards the principal, okay? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, page 17. Okay, make sure you follow, okay? No chatting now. At a dealership, right? You're buying a car at a dealership, and it's the base price is right there before taxes. There's a down payment. The interest rate is 6.75% over 5 years. Those are all important things that you need to make sure you get, right? Calculate the total cost, including taxes. So this is, can we call this used dealer? Is that okay? In this case, there's no freight, there are no options, nothing. So this is essentially the sticker, right? Sticker price times 1.12. And what does that give me? Some of you already did that. That's 15,566.88. So this is essentially, you go to the dealership, this is what they have on the window, but then you're like, hey, you need to add taxes. This is really what you're looking at when you want to buy the car, right? Now we're asking how much are you going to have to take out for a loan. You look at your formulas, you're going to have to go 15,566.88 minus, what are you going to take away from that? Your down payment, okay? So your down payment is 1,800 bucks in this case. And so that gives you 13,766.88. That's all it is. So this is the loan you're going to need, okay? Calculate the payment. I'm just going to say that, right? This is already the loan. Why would I redo the whole calculation, right? So this is the loan times every time you're trying to find a payment, you have to get that table rate. And it happens to be right next door, right? Next page. So 5 years. Go ahead and do that because that's a mark right there. If you get that wrong, so go and find it yourselves. I matched 6.75. That's 19. What? 1969, right? So go ahead and calculate your payment. And that is $271.07. Hopefully nobody loses marks on rounding on this one, okay? Next, total amount paid for the vehicle by the end of the 5 years. Total amount, watch what it says. Total amount paid for the vehicle by the end of the 5 years, by the end of the term. What would that be in terms of formulas? Is it total paid to the bank? Total paid for the car, right? So total paid for the car. How do we find that? We go take our payment, we multiply it by 12. In this case, it's a 5-year loan. And what we're going to add the down payment. This is straight from the formula. And that is, I think I had down first, right? But that's okay. It's okay. So that is 18,000. I should do that in steps, but I will do that actually. My key is skipping that part, so I'm going to go ahead and actually calculate that. So this is 16,264.20 plus 1,800. So that's 18,064.20. This is how much you would have paid for the car, right? So when you're done, you're like, okay, after all the interest that I've paid, after all the down payment, this is really what you paid over 5 years. Okay. Does that make sense? Total paid for the car. How much money in interest alone was paid? What are they asking for there? TI, yeah. And so we have TI's is going to tell us to go 271.07 times 12 times 5, straight from the formula, minus, what are we going to subtract? Look at the formula. It's the loan, right? The loan, which is 13,766.88. I want you to see that, so that is always important to have. So it's 16,264.20 minus 13,766.88. This is always the one most students get wrong on any AC, any quiz, any test. This is the one. I want you to figure that out. You have the formula by yourselves right now, and if you get it wrong, scratch it, then we'll do it right next. But right now, take 2 minutes, figure out how much interest is paid on the first month's payment. Look up your formula and try it. It should take you 2 minutes. So this is when I make observations, right? Like, are you trying? Are you trying, right? And so I can tell that you're trying, right? You're looking at your calculator, you're looking at your notes. Where's the formula, right? So what I need to here for this to work, I need my loan, right? And I need to multiply this by something divided by 100. So if you divide it by 1,000, quickly erase it, quickly, right? Because it happens. And then we take our interest rate, 6.75, all of that divided by 12. And now I'm going to calculate this. 13,766.88, right, times 6.75. I'm going to hit equals there. Divide that by 100. You can't see that, can you? Divide it by 100. All of this divided by 12. So it's 77.44. Okay, so right now, you just want to make sure you follow, okay? What's the sticker price? If you add an options worth $1,500, you gotta go way back to the top, because remember, sticker price doesn't have taxes, correct? No taxes. So I'm gonna go, what's the car worth at the beginning? I'm just gonna add the option here, and I get 15,399. That's it. that would be it. That's just to remind you, hey, you remember what we've done before, right? Okay. Our time is almost up. I think I just want to tell you this. Pay attention. This is your homework, okay? You ready? On page 920, that's when the assignment starts. So those are the questions I want you to work. You have a long weekend. Monday is an in-service, so no classes for you. But the most important one is this. The equations, the formulas I gave you, you need to transfer them over to your study sheet, okay? Without using up too much space. So that's going to be the tricky part, okay? And so on Tuesday, I will AC you on this, okay? So you got to be ready for loans. Is it going to be every class or? I'm going to say yes today. We have to.